Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the League of Women's Voters continuing program on Know Your City. Today, I am absolutely delighted to have Captain Jeff Rodley of the Waltham Police Department with us. Good afternoon, Captain Jeff.
Good afternoon, Annette. Thank you for having me, and hello to the Women Voters.
Okay. As usual with these programs, I send some questions over to the people I'm speaking with so that we have a framework. And I had so many questions, Captain, that we're going to be here for 3 hours today. Is that okay with you?
Well, 2 of them will be without me because, as we talked about, I do have another matter in about an hour, but absolutely, I'll do my best to answer all questions that you sent me.
Good. So let me ask you this. How many officers are there in the Waltham Police Department?
We're chartered to have 154 officers, but with the retirements ongoing, we're always trying to hire to keep up to that number. But we're allotted to have 154.
Okay. And how is the department structured? I know you're not just all out on patrol, you're not all detectives. How is the department structured?
Right. That's a good question. The department's broken into 4 divisions, patrol being the largest and what we refer to as the backbone of the police department. It's the women and men that go out there every day and respond to 911 calls, handle emergencies, and other pressing matters for the community. After the patrol division, you have the detective division, who does the follow-ups on the calls that originate in the division. Community services, which is the division that I work in, and we do a lot of regulatory things, licensing, firearms, community events, some traffic issues as well. And then you have the administration division, which is training, planning, and research about crime analysts based in the administration division. So those 4 divisions make up the police department, but patrol is the biggest and the most forward-facing division that we have.
How many women are there in the department?
16 sworn females, the police department, and we have another cadre, I believe, of, I wrote down, if I can just refer real quick, 9 civilian, and that includes our animal control officer.
Okay, and how many people of color?
15 people of color, and that's a mix of different races, Spanish,
Okay.
Black.
I did notice on Facebook where on the Waltham Police Department page, you were highlighting people of color for Black History Month and
Yes.
Today's Women's History Month, or that's what it is. Okay, now, what do you have to do to become a police officer?
Well, the first thing you need to do is take the civil service exam. That's a statewide test that's administered to anybody who's looking to become a police officer, regardless of the community that you live in. It's a standardized test. And once that test has been completed, the results are sent to the police departments. And based on the number of openings that we have, we conduct interviews. So for every 1 opening, we conduct 3 interviews. So if there's 3 openings, we can conduct interviews. The people that make it beyond the background process, which is very extensive, they make it past the background process, come in for an interview, then they're given an offer of employment. And then there's medical, physical backgrounds. Once you get beyond all that, then you would join the police academy, which is a rigorous 6-month, approximately 800 hours of classroom and physical fitness over the course of 6 months. Once you graduate the police academy, you come to the police department where you'll be employed here in Waltham, I can speak of, where you enter the field training officer program. That's a 3-month program where the officers will be assigned to 3 veteran officers, 1 officer each month. So they get to see 3 different styles of police officers. We'll show them multiple things as experience grows. And at the end of the 3rd phase, they spend their last 4 shifts with their primary, their first officer they met with, who will be in plainclothes, strictly observing them. And if that officer gives it fit to continue on in the police service, they'll go out on their own. So it's very extensive. It's very comprehensive. It's a great program, and I'm very proud of it.
Good. Now, I will tell you and the audience that I took part last year in the Waltham Citizens Police Academy.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, it was a wonderful program. And I strongly recommend to all of those watching this program that they sign up. And I think you're just starting one right about now. And
Yes, we have multiple sessions throughout the year. Lieutenant Lombardo who runs the Citizens Academy, does a wonderful job. I would encourage anybody listening who has any interest in law enforcement, whether it's as a career or just someone who resides in the community and is curious as what it is we actually do. This is a great way to get behind the curtain, so to speak, and learn what the men here do.
And I absolutely agree with you. Now, in most communities, the police are on the front lines when it comes to a lot of social issues. And I like to think of, in fact, I know Waltham is a safe community. Just in general, it's a safe community. It's not problem-free, but I don't ever feel unsafe in any part of Waltham. But how do you handle things such as domestic violence?
Well, domestic violence is something very serious and something we take very seriously. There's state guidelines that mandate how we will respond to them. So in other words, the safety of the women and children are paramount when it comes to any decision to arrest. Arrest is the preferred response for a crime and amount of abuse under the domestic violence laws. These are very sensitive situations we need to have to deal with casually and with patience and understanding, and we have that here. I'm proud to say that. So we take domestic violence very seriously, and that's the response in a nutshell for this sake of this interview. There's a lot more that goes into it, but that's in essence an overview.
What about something like public intoxication?
That's something we've had to deal with on occasion here in Waltham as well. The law, again, these things are regulated by Mass General laws, this one being Chapter 111, Section 8, which allows us, if we find someone who is unconscious, in need of medical attention, likely to suffer physical harm or property damage, or even unconscious, we can remove them and bring them to a detox facility. We can bring them to the house, or we can bring them to the police station and hold them in detention for up to 12 hours or until they're sober, whatever comes first.
Okay. What about noise complaints?
Those are important because they're quality of life, right? There's different types of noise complaints. Sometimes it's a house party. Sometimes it's somebody, a contractor working beyond the allotted hours. It all varies, but every situation different. That's what makes the job unique. There's no one size fits all response to these calls, no monolithic response. We have to handle things based on their merits. Sometimes it's simple as, hey, can you turn music down? That quells the disturbance. Sometimes we have to back several times, and the officers use their discretion and their judgment to resolve the situation and hopefully come up with the best outcome.
Okay. Do you have many issues or complaints about the unhoused, the homeless here in town?
We do come across some of our unhoused people from a variety of, from multiple sources at times. And so there's some concerns, but it's important to understand that simply being homeless is not a crime.
No.
Sometimes their behaviors amount to criminal activity. But again, we have to take a passionate response, understand that many people suffer from mental health challenges, substance use disorder, or it could be a co-occurring disorder. But what we try to do is take an individualized approach and connect these people with resources that they need so they can get back on track to lead a successful life. And so we work with our partners in the community. We have a home outreach team that goes out and connects them with resources as well. We work with the day center on Felton Street, and this Neil down there does a wonderful job connecting them to housing, which is very important to get people back on the straight path to live the best life, and just understanding what resources are in the community. I have a jail diversion clinician who deals with mental health and substance abuse. Some of these people that might have a problem with one or the other, resources given to them, we reach out to them after the call. And that sometimes, it's the best way of handling these issues. Arrest is not always the right answer.
Well, I agree with you there. And it's heartening to hear how well you work with the other resources in the city. Now, Massachusetts is composed of hundreds of relatively small communities outside, the large cities, the Boston, the Worcesters, the Springfields. How do you support something like SWAT teams or expensive resources like drones? I can't imagine every community has the resources if they need a SWAT type team or a special type of unit. How do you work with that?
Well, first of all, let's stipulate that we never need a SWAT team, right? We want to be able to avoid these situations whenever possible. But in the unlikely event that a SWAT team is necessary, we do share resources. The Northeast Middlesex Law Enforcement Council, known to the offices as NEMLIC, where all the cities and towns in Middlesex County share resources. Officers from each department are designated to be on the team. They try out for the SWAT team, or they're appointed to a regional response team. And so if there is an incident that overwhelms the normal resources of the city, you can contact NEMLIC, and they can have a group of trained officers come to your community to respond and hopefully, resolve the situation peacefully. We do have those resources if we shall need them.
So there's shared resources within this whole area. That sounds
in terms of SWAT team per se or a regional response team. Waltham has its own drone unit, so we do have a lot of resources here. We handle many things, most things, internally. We have many resources, highly trained and motivated women and men that come to work every day looking to resolve problems. So very rarely do we need to rely on those outside resources, but it's nice to know that you have them when you need them.
So what does a typical day look like for an officer who's in the field, a patrol officer?
That's another great question. There is no typical day, and that's what makes the job so unique. It makes it so challenging and so interesting. Some days you can be going call to call, other days you might only call or two. It all depends. So you never know. So you have to come to work prepared to face the unexpected. And that's one of the things that makes this job so unique and I think so wonderful, because no day is the same.
Now, as I've said, I perceive of Waltham as a fairly safe community. Yet in the years that I've lived here, there have been several very high-profile, horrific crimes that have been reported. And I can't help but to think that for the officers responding to these types of situations, that it's very challenging for them emotionally, mental health-wise. What resources are in place to an officer who feels overwhelmed by something like this?
Well, that is one of the difficult parts of the job, that officers do see a lot of things that society at large doesn't see, and that's a good thing for society at large. But the officers that do their witness of the more evil parts of society, we have resources internally within the police department. We have a peer support unit, but outside the police department, we have a critical incident stress management unit known as CISM, where officers from all different towns, much like the earlier NEMLIC SWAT team, but this is for mental health, officers that can talk to officers who have seen what they've seen. Maybe that officer doesn't feel comfortable talking to their own colleagues from the Waltham Police Department, might feel more comfortable talking to an officer from the Cambridge Police Department about what they saw and how it made them feel. We want to encourage help seeking whenever possible, and let officers know that it's okay not to be okay, and there's help out there for them. So that's very important. That's pushed from the top down here at the police department. So there are resources that are there to help. We want people to seek help.
That's good to know. Now, we spoke initially about the training a new police officer gets. What about ongoing training? Do you have any of that?
Oh, all the time, yes. We have a robust training division that focuses on all aspects of law enforcement. So when you graduate the academy, you spend, like I said, 6 months, roughly 800 hours. But the laws are always evolving. The profession is always changing and advancing. You need to stay current with the changes. So we have ongoing training all the time. Every year, the Massachusetts Police Training Committee requires officers to undertake 40 hours of continuing education, CPR, law updates, firearms training, and the like. However, officers are encouraged to put in for additional trainings that they feel would make them effective in their jobs. So we have officers going to various trainings all the time. I just came from a training yesterday. So, you know, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. That's the mantra. So you got to keep going and getting better. So our officers do that, and it's something that encourages at the police department.
Now, let's shift gears a second. I love watching TV. I love watching CSI, the FBI, Law and Order. And how long does it take you to get a DNA test back? I know on TV it's only a half an hour.
Well, that's the problem we face, right? The CSI effect, we call it, right? Everyone thinks that, you know, we're going to have this thing solved by, you know, the second commercial.
Of course.
And unfortunately, it's not quite as glamorous as Hollywood would it seem. While there might be similarities with the storylines, how the officers got from identification to arrest to conviction, it's a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of interviews, a lot of legal process that has to take place that doesn't always present itself as glamorous the way TV makes it look. So those shows are interesting. I don't watch them. I will say for full disclosure. But
you'd probably go crazy screaming at the screen.
Well, just not my thing. But no judgment. You know, they are interesting. So, but they're not reality in terms of what happens every day. There can be similarities, but there's stark differences between what you see on TV and what's been in the real world.
Yeah, but how long does it take you to get lab results back from the state lab?
I really can't speak to that. In my division, we don't deal with the crime lab, but sometimes it can take, this would be my guess, weeks, months, depending on the workload of the crime lab, which is the police crime laboratory in Sudbury.
Yeah.
So it would all depend on the priority of the case. Murder evidence should get looked at quicker than vandalism evidence. That's my thought process on that, but I'm not from the division, so I don't have the exact answer for you.
Well, what's the best thing about your job?
You're asking a lot of good questions.
I know. It's not like I didn't share them with you.
I'll tell you, Annette, I think the best part of my job is being able to make a positive difference every day in someone's life. I come to work every day and something as simple as, you know, being friendly to a little boy or girl and putting a smile on their face, or having something as complex as maybe discussing a policy that will better our efforts to complete the mission in the community. So every day I have a chance to do something positive, and I enjoy that. My job is more administrative now than it was in years past, but there's still a lot that can be done to make that positive difference. And that's what I love about this job.
Now, did you start as a patrol officer?
I started as a cadet at the age of 19. So the police cadet program was first foray in law enforcement. But my father and my grandfather were both police officers. So I knew from a very young age what I want to do with my life. But I started officially at age 19 as part of the police cadet program, and then, you know, continued on to a patrol officer and to where I am today. So yeah, 19. So I'm in my 25th year as a police officer and 28 in law enforcement.
Interesting. What does your family think about it? Tell me about your family.
Well, my mother and father are very proud of me. And I have to say, what I have in my life, what relative success is attributed to my parents. So I want to thank my mother and father if they're watching this. But my wife and I have a wife and two daughters. Their ages 8 and 10, Brooke and Taylor. Love you girls. And my wife, her too, but her name is Giselle, and we live in Waltham. I love this community. It's not just a place where I work, it's a place where I live. So the problems that affect the community don't only affect me professionally, but they affect me personally. So I care about this community. I've lived here my whole life, plan on staying here my entire life. My parents and my family, they're supportive. It's been a great career. I would steer my daughters into law enforcement if they wanted to go that route. You know, the choice is this as they get older. at 8 and 10, they might change their mind 200 or 300 times between now and then.
Absolutely.
So right now, neither one of them has mentioned being a police officer, which is no problem. I'll support them whatever decision they want to make.
They're at the age where they want to be princesses and superheroes, I think.
Certainly my princesses, I can tell you that right now. They certainly are.
Obviously. Now, I asked you the best thing about your job. If you could change anything, what would you change about your job or the job of being a police officer in Waltham?
So it's sound cliche, but I have nothing to change about the job. I love this job. If I could do it all over again tomorrow, I would do it. If I could do it all again next day, I would do it. The one thing that I wish I could change is that I missed some things in life because of the job, in my personal life, because the job does take up a lot of time. But my family, by the grace of God, they understand the commitment that the police job requires, the profession. But yeah, I've missed out on some things, birthdays and stuff like that, that, you know,
You have to
that I wish I could get back on those. But the job itself, I've been blessed. I'm doing what to me, it's no different than the kid who plays professional baseball, who's, playing for the Red Sox. I'm playing for the Waltham Red Sox, I feel. It's my career dream. So.
What advice would you give to anyone who wished to get involved in law enforcement and be a police officer?
Well, first you have to ask yourself the question, why do I want to become a police officer? This job is not how television depicts it. It's mostly service. So do you have a service mentality? Are you a problem solver? Are you a critical thinker? These are questions that you need to ask yourself, because what you see on TV, all that high octane, that happens few and far between. More service. I'd be lying to say the job isn't exciting. It absolutely is. But there's a lot of stuff that is not quite as exciting, but equally as important. And resolving problems, getting to the root cause of issues so they don't reoccur is very important. We value that here at the police department. So a service mindset, empathetic, compassionate, patient. If you have those values, then I would encourage you to take civil service test, because we look for people that have those values.
Okay, just one last question. What have I forgotten to ask you?
I think you asked me a lot of great questions. Can't think of anything you've forgotten, but if you want to throw me a curveball and ask me something you haven't, I'm here, I'm ready.
No, these programs are meant to introduce various areas of our city to those who don't know much about you. And the only thing I would say, and has little to do with you, is folks who are watching this, go to the Citizens Police Academy. It's worth the time. There's a lot of understanding, a lot of fun too. I got to do a ride along. I got to go down to the shooting range. I got to watch the drones and your wonderful police dog, things that you don't do in everyday life. So, but I want to thank you so much, and I want to thank all the members of the Waltham Police Force, because a great asset to the city. And an editorial comment, I never hear anything bad about you either. So
that's always nice to hear. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. And for the audience, if anyone has any questions, I can be reached at 781-314-3601. I'm sorry, 3591, 781-314-3591. Or they can just simply come to the front counter of the police station and ask for me. If they have any interest in the Citizens Academy, a career in law enforcement, or if having a problem in their neighborhood, I want to make sure that that's abundantly clear.
Again, I thank you very much. And to everybody else, we'll see you the next time.